Self-esteem is your overall sense of worth and value. It massively influences your choices, your life decisions, and your relationships. For me personally, my self-esteem has fluctuated over the course of my life. I've been in states where my self-esteem has been relatively low, and in other phases of my life, my self-esteem has been relatively high. So in this video, I'm going to go into some of the lessons that I've learned about self-esteem and share some of the top tips and ways that's helped me increase my self-esteem over the last few years. The good news is self-esteem isn't fixed. So with a few habit changes and perspective shifts, you will find that you can boost your self-esteem, and doing so can reduce the risk and severity of mental health issues. So I think it's worth starting with defining what self-esteem is. Self-esteem is the attitude you have towards yourself and how well you feel you're living up to your intended or desired self-image. Essentially, it's the gap or distance between who you think you are and who you want to be. So an important concept to comprehend is the idea of the bear model, and that is your beliefs influence your emotions, which influence your actions, which in turn influences your results. So everything essentially starts with beliefs, and your beliefs in turn influence the results that you have. So that's why I think it's an important idea to digest what are your current beliefs and what beliefs you think you should have, or what beliefs you can change in order to get to the desired results at the end. So these are the 4 steps that I use to get from where I am now to ideally where I want to be in the future, and this particularly applies to self-esteem as well. Step 1, redefine your self-image. Often the biggest thing that holds one back from their potential is their own negative self-image. How you see yourself internally often determines how you act. So if you see yourself, for example, as a lazy person or someone who is incompetent, when a task comes up that requires competence or hard work or structure, you tend to not do those things because it goes against your own identity. Whereas if you see yourself as a hardworking, structured, reliable type person, then when those traits are required, you tend to rise to those occasions. So the main goal of this step is to really come to terms with who you want to be. Create a clear internal image of who you want to be, and that will paint the journey ahead in terms of how you get from point A to where you want to be in the future. If you're someone who knows that they want to better themselves but doesn't really know where to start or what kind of person they ideally want to be in clear terms, then the best thing you can do is to default back to your core values. So if one of your core values, for example, is family, and you want to become a father or mother or a better father or better mother, then this could help facilitate some of the things that you need to do in order to become that in the first place. If one of your core values is freedom or success, then this could be the catalyst that can help you kind of point yourself in the right direction to move towards that goal. I find a helpful thought experiment is, if you had a month to live, what would you like to do over the course of that month, and how would you like to be remembered? This helps really put into perspective what are your core values, what is truly important to you, and how you would like to ideally spend your time. So once you've defined this self-image, we can move on to step 2, which is take baby steps. The main goal here is to positively reinforce that self-image. So if you're someone who wants to become more healthy or more fit, you need to take steps that moves you in that direction. You want to make sure that the steps aren't too large, because if they're too large, it will become overwhelming, and what usually happens is you default back to your starting point. So a good example to explain this one is, let's say you wanted to become a more organized or structured person. Rather than jumping way too far and trying to track every second of how you spend every day, instead, if you take baby steps and say do one thing, try to get one thing to become a habit. So that could be getting up at the same time every morning. This might seem like a small thing, and how does that make you become a very structured or organized person? But by reinforcing these little things, such as getting up at the same time every morning, it really helps you identify and prove to yourself that you are the kind of person who does this thing. Similarly, if you wanted to become more fit or healthy, rather than jumping straight to I need to do 2 hours in the gym every day, it's much better to do something like, my minimal goal is 3 times a week, I need to go to the gym for 10 minutes. You may end up doing more than those 10 minutes, but to actually set the bar low and then slowly raise the bar over the course of your journey is much better than raising the bar really high, occasionally reaching it, but then occasionally feeling deflated because you couldn't reach that level. As the saying goes, Rome wasn't built in a day, so the same applies to self-esteem. What you really need is consistency and doing little things that reinforces your own self-belief positively, as opposed to doing certain things sometimes and then having negative experiences the other time. That just kind of throws into a more chaotic balancing act rather than incrementally improving over the course of your journey. These little wins or achievements compound over time. And as you start to prove to yourself that you're someone who is capable of doing these things, you start to identify as someone who is capable of doing those things. So seeing as these little wins are so important, that takes us to step 3, which is set yourself up for success. What I've really found is environment matters, and this could be social environment, emotional environment, or even physical environment. So if your goal is to go to the gym and become the kind of person who is fit or healthy, then you need to make it as easy as possible for you to achieve those goals. So this could be as simple as like leaving your gym gear or gym bag at the end of your bed that you pick up on your way to work, or when you get home, you intend to go to the gym straight afterwards, and having your gym gear all ready for you so that you can go straight when you get back. These little things might seem insignificant, but it's really been shown that they have a massive impact on the likelihood of you continuing with that habit. Likewise, if you want to become someone who's better at managing money, then you need to avoid the temptation to spend money that you didn't want to spend. And this could be done by, like I've said in a previous video, by moving a portion of your money dedicated for savings before you start doing your spending. So this makes you spend what you have to rather than spend first and then save what you haven't spent. Little hacks like this have been shown to have a massive difference, and it's definitely had a noticeable difference in my life as well. So a good place to start with this one is to optimize your immediate surroundings. So for example, if your bedroom is always a mess and you want to become more structured or better at going to the gym or better with your savings, you want to create an immediate environment so that it helps you kind of become in a clearer frame of mind. There definitely seems to be a correlation with your physical surroundings and your mental health. So by tidying up things and organizing things neatly and nicely in your own room or in your own house, you'll find it's much easier to organize aspects of your personality or your habits or your intentions and goals. When everything is a bit of a blur physically, it becomes a bit of a blur mentally or emotionally as well. Another thing you can do is to try to remove or filter out the junk from your life. So for example, if you spend too much time on social media or with alcohol or cigarettes or whatever it may be, by slowly removing these things one at a time, you'll find that you have more energy to focus on the things that you want to do, and you have less temptations and less distractions that move you away from those goals. Step 4 is stretch your abilities. A huge aspect of self-esteem is to disprove the negative views on yourself and to increase the positive ones. And one of the best ways of doing this is by achieving and pursuing difficult challenges or difficult tasks. Essentially, over time, you want your stack of evidence that you are a worthy person or you are a good person or a capable person, whatever it may be. You want this evidence, this pile of evidence, to increase over time. So every time you do and conquer something difficult, even that could be going for a run or trying a new challenge or doing a particular task that you've never done before, something that leaves you vulnerable, but then conquering that challenge tends to add almost like a sheet of paper that acts as evidence that you are who you say you are. And by doing those things and adding new pieces of evidence, this stack increases, and your negative stack or negative pile of evidence that kind of supports the negative views on yourself becomes more and more insignificant as you start to reinforce the positive pile of evidence that you have to show who you are. So a bonus tip is, because these things can be challenging but definitely worthwhile, don't feel the need to pursue them completely alone. It's definitely very beneficial at times to ask for help. And this could be friends or family, or if you want a very objective lens, then a therapist is definitely a good way to go. Like I said, anything that helps you see things objectively and reinforces positive behavior is going to, over time, increase your self-esteem. So little things like practicing meditation or practicing gratitude, while it's very easy to overlook these things or dismiss them as like, that's not going to make me feel better, you'll be surprised by little habits really compound over time. So just these little changes build up, and you'll find that the results of those changes will far exceed your expectations. That's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. Feel free to leave any comments or suggestions in the comment section below. I'll definitely read every one of them. And for now though, I will see you in the next one.